Good afternoon. My name is Raymond Johnson, and I have prepared a video, and I ask you to join me for a few moments as I discuss a part of my history and how that may be a message that you may utilize to your advantage in this discussion. And the basic topic is children, the subject of education, and how you and I can impact our children for their future as well as a future for ourselves. I spent 30 years as a family therapist and Christian counselor, and I decided that perhaps if you would spend a few moments with me, I may have some ideas that you might find helpful regarding the raising and the encouragement of your child or children. I would begin with the notion that we should really look at our children as assets to us and not liabilities. Second, I would say we need to consider, with respect to our children, setting a purpose for their lives. Whether they ultimately meet that goal, that's a different issue. But at least setting a purpose, an architect, a musician, a barber, set some purpose for that youngster, because that will be transmitted to the youngster in your interaction with him or her as they are growing up. The second thing is set a plan for their, I should say the third thing is to set a plan for their education. How are you going to go about meeting the goal or the purpose for them that you've set in the plan for education? If we can do those three things, that sets us up. It sets the child up for an interaction in the home that's going to be very positive. With respect to another area that I often saw when persons came into my office, a mother might come in and bring her teenage son, he's 13 or 14 years old, and she says to me, he's just not obeying, he's difficult, and I'm through with him, see what you can do with him. And generally when I talk to the youngster alone, he or she will basically say, it'll come down to this: yes, mom or dad really loves me. I believe they do care for me. However, they don't listen. A key component for a parent or the guardian that interacts with that youngster is to ensure that if you're going to make correction or offer verbal correction, you also need to offer the positive kudos and the positive yeses, complimenting him or her for what he or she has done properly in the past. More often than not, the parent begins in their zeal to make them better, quote unquote, make them better. They will overcorrect. And when you do that, and if you do that often enough, the child who's hearing you overcorrect will begin to turn off because they only hear that piece which is a part of the overcorrection. And so when you give them concrete advice, they're no longer listening, they're turned off. A remedy for that, not very, very difficult, is to when you see him or her engage in a behavior which is positive, give that pat on the back, that kudo, and tell them that you love them, you're thankful for their being a part of your family, and you want to encourage that particular behavior. And when you do that often enough, when there is a point for improvement, and we have a term for that, we call that the sandwich method. If you want to correct a behavior, a youngster was supposed to come home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they came home at 4:20, and they were not able to accomplish the task that you had asked them to accomplish, and they were late. A way of engaging that youngster might be, you've done really well during this year or in the past several months? Because I recall you doing X, Y, Z, and R. And then you might say, however, on today you were late and you should have responded in the following fashion by being there at 4 o'clock or calling and letting me know why you could not return at the time that you are required to return. And then finish that up with, I know that in the future you're going to continue to cause me to know that you have skills, you're listening, and that you're a good person, and I expect great things from you in the future. This type of a sandwich method will help the youngster to know, although there's a point for improvement, he or she is cared for, loved, and they are special in your household. And I can tell you, if you will utilize that, and it may cause you to think a little bit more, because typically if you've had a busy day or you're a bit anxious about your job or something else, you may not think very clearly about doing this, but I would ask you to take a step back. And again, remember that the child is not an accident there, and you've got a purpose for their lives, and therefore you want to engage positively in their future. That would be one of my first suggestions and offers to you as you seek to bring about the best possible education and learning experience and instruction for your child.